welcome to Push Luck video. My name is Eric, and in this special triple threat episode, we'll be looking at Yokohama. Now, Yokohama is a 2 to 4 player game published by Tasty Minstrel Games, who is bringing this game into the States, and it's by famed designer Hisashi Hayashi, who brought you many other games like Sail to India, Trains, Rolling America, Rolling Japan, Rolling World. Now, in this game, what you're trying to do is that you're in control of a group of people, a group of resources, and you're going around different locations in Yokohama. You are getting resources from these locations, and then you are trying to fulfill contracts and go to church as well and export goods. So at the end of the game, whoever has the most points will be the winner. If you have played Istanbul, it's very similar in concept to Istanbul, but it is definitely much more deeper. You can think of it as Istanbul++. Alright, so let's go to the 3 treats that I like about the game and the 3 threats that I did not like the game or that I think that you may not prefer of the game. And then I'll give you my final thoughts about the game. Before we continue on with the rest of the video, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to this video channel to be up to date with all the latest videos that I produce, as well as like this video and leave me comments and feedback. It will mean a great lot to me. Lastly, I'd like to thank Tasty Minstrel for this review copy, and also to thank Fun Again Games for being a contributor to this channel as well. Their support means a lot to me. So on with the 3 things I like about this game and the 3 things I did not like about the game. The first treat about the game is that the replayability of the game. There's so much replayability built into the game. Now, first thing, there's all these different location tiles, alright? There's so many of them and they all give different resources. Now, at the start of the game, what you're doing is that you're always shuffling them and then arrange them in a pyramid, like a reverse pyramid-like format. Alright, and so that depending on number of players, there'll be a different number of set of tiles being used. But most of the time, when you're playing the game, the board will always look different. So as a result of that, every game will be different. And how you approach the game, how you deal with the different strategies of the game will also be different. So to me, that's a whole lot of replayability built into the game itself. And also the different technology cards that will appear on the board, the different contracts that will appear on the board will be different. That will be determined by how you shuffle the deck and the luck of the draw. So that's my first treat from the game, is the replayability. So my second treat of the game is the open information. Everything that you need to know about the game is all right there in front of you on the board. What you want to know about your opponents as well, everything is visible to you. If you look at a player board, alright, all the information is available. How many houses that you have left, how many trading posts that you have left, how many assistants that you have left, and how much money you have will all be on the board, will all be available on the table. Who is on which location, how many people have assistants on which location, is all there. So as a result of that, you can plan ahead. You can look during other players' turn, you can look ahead, you can think ahead, you can think of what you can do. You can also think of alternative plans to react to other players' movement. So that when it comes to you, you can execute your move pretty fast and pretty quickly. So as long as you can think ahead or you can plan ahead, it allows you a lot of time to then execute your moves, and then the game will move on faster. So I like this a lot about the game, the open information. Nothing is really hidden, so that you can really plan ahead and then decide what you want to do and react quickly as well. And so the game will move on faster. So that's my number 2 treat of the game, is the open information. The third treat of the game is that the mechanisms of the game are all meshed very well together. They flow seamlessly into one another. So there are a few mechanisms of the game. One thing is the actual placement of the assistants, so that your president, your main pawn, can go around these locations and execute the ability of that location. Now, how do you execute that location is also dependent on how many people that you have there, how many buildings you have there. That will determine the power that you have there, and then the power that you have will then determine what kind of actions that you can do as well. The other mechanism is also resource collection. So you need to go to different locations to collect resources and then collect contracts. And from the contracts, you can fulfill the contracts and then be able to get points, as well as be able to get foreign agents, which are like a second chance, in a way, like a second action for you. One-time use, when you use them, you can execute action of any location where you have an assistant there. So all these mechanisms mesh together very well. The resources as well feed into one another. For example, if you go to the church, you can contribute the different resources to boost up the church value, alright, which will allow you to place higher up on the church board. the dock. You can get one contract usually, but if you manage to spend money or extra import goods, you also get a different one more contract. If you go to a laboratory, if you spend money or import goods, you can increase your research ability and get better research cards. So all in all, the mechanisms all gel very well together. Now when I first start the game, it will seem very daunting. There's many symbols, there's many different tiles to set up, there's many different individual pieces, but as the game progresses, players found that it was quite easy to pick up. The symbols are very clear, they understand what they're doing. After a while, everything will flow very fast and there's no need for you to handhold anyone anymore. Most of the rules are very clear right at the beginning. So I like that all the mechanisms gel together very well so that when players play the game, they don't need to refer to rulebook so often. So that's my number 3 treat of the game, which is that the mechanisms mesh very well together. The 3 threats of the game. Number 1 is that endgame scoring. A lot of the endgame scoring goals, the point difference isn't a lot. I'll show you an example. So these are 2 examples of endgame scoring points. Now this means that if you have built 4 locations that have this symbol, right, then you'll be able to fulfill this endgame scoring. Now whoever the first to do so will get 10 points. The subsequent players, number 2, number 3, or number 4, they will get 8 points. You can see that the point difference is not a lot, like it's like 2 points difference. So I'm not too sure why that is so. It should make it more, it will make it feel more important to go for these endgame scoring points if you went first, because then the point differences will be a lot. Now in a game where sometimes you can score up to 100 plus points, my last game I scored 140 something points. This 2 point difference isn't a lot, so I'm kind of surprised that they had it this way. And also, one of the other ways that you can have endgame scoring is at these locations. For the science research one, if the sum total of all the research cards that you have, the research power that you have is the highest, then you get 10 points. The second most, you get 5 points. So again, 5 points difference is not really a lot. For this one, if you have the most meeples or most assistants on this is the church, in the church, you get 6 points. Second most will get 3 points. Alright, so it's really not a lot of difference. I mean, you place on them to get points, which should give you quite a lot of benefits. But this endgame scoring is not really a lot. So that's one number one of the threats for me, which is that the endgame scoring isn't a lot. So the second threat of the game is that the open information means that you kind of know who's leading and who's not pretty soon, very early in the game. Like in the middle of the game, you kind of know who's leading and who's not, and whether you have a chance to actually catch up or not. So that kind of, because there's not that many endgame scoring, there's not that many hidden endgame scoring, so usually by the middle of the game, you kind of know who's going to win, who's not going to win, and that might kill the excitement of the game for some people, because if you know that you cannot catch up with that person seems to be running away with all the points, then what's the point of playing the game anymore? You could fight for a second, you can fight for a third and not be last, but it kind of kills the buzz a bit. So I do wish that there was some possible personal hidden information goals, alright, that may give you some points, so that you're fighting for points during the game. You can see where everybody is, you see all the points that they're scoring, but at the same time there could be that extra surprise at the end. So that's my second threat. The open information itself doesn't lead to a lot of surprises near the end. Last threat I want to talk about is research. So the research cards give you quite a lot of abilities. Sometimes they let you, when you activate a particular location, you can still leave one assistant cube behind. You can immediately get a station, which will give you extra power, but it also gives extra power to other players as well, but allows you to walk to that station immediately without going through all the movement restrictions that the game rules ask you to do. Those research powers are quite powerful, but to actually get to the research powers, you often will need to activate like 4 or 5 assistants to get the better ones, because they cost quite a lot of research points to get them. And the research track, where the research market, where there's cards for the research, they don't refresh very often. So it really, I guess it depends on the players that you have, but in my games that I've played, most of the time the research players tend to get 1 or 2, and then they concentrate on the other things, getting other resources to do the contracts and so forth. So they don't necessarily spend a lot of time on the research. And it's interesting as well, because as long as my research points are more than anyone else on the board. I'm kind of assured the 10 points. I don't need to work too hard anymore. Granted that the research powers do give me a lot of benefit, but to actually get them, it already cost me quite a lot of movements, a lot of wasted turns, in a way, invested turns, I would say, before I can get them, and then I need a few turns after that before I can start to see the fruits of my science and research. So it's kind of interesting that the research cards, well, there are quite a lot of them, not many of them are being played, or they are not valued as such in the game. It feels more like a tacked on part of the game than anything else. So that's my third thread of the game, the research cards. Those are my 3 treats and 3 threads of Yokohama. So what do I think of the game? I recommend it. It's one game that initially when I first started playing it, I thought that Istanbul was better because Istanbul felt a bit more streamlined, a bit more elegant. This felt a bit more fiddly. There's more things to set up, there's more things to do. But after I played a few more times, again with some rules corrected as well, alright, I really liked it. I may have not played Istanbul with all the other expansions. I only played the base Istanbul, but right now Yokohama does it more for me than Istanbul. There's a lot more things to think about in the game, especially the assistants, how you move them around the board, how you place them to position yourself so that the next time when you use them again, you have a lot more assistance, give you more power, and so on and so forth. We haven't played to such an extent where we can do like clever blocking of each other, because most of the time we are kind of concentrated on our own thing. We're trying to do the best as we can, but I can see that if you play with players who are very cutthroat, they know how to block each other, they know how to screw each other up, this will be an even more intense game. So Yokohama is, I recommend Yokohama. If you have a chance, do check it out. I'll put a link as well for where you can find the game on Fun Again Games. And so yeah, those are the end of my review of Yokohama. Recommended. Thank you again, Tasty Minstrel Games, for this review copy, and thank you so much for watching.